on the list, and with that we'll make a start. So as I said again, very good morning from a very dull, gloomy Death Valley this morning. It is overcast, light rain falling. We've had about just on 8 millimetres overnight, and still a little bit of light drizzly rain falling even now. Kevin, VK3 CKL, and last but not least, we've got Steve, VK3 HK. So with that, it is over to you there, Roy. VK3 ARY to take it. This is VK3 SJ.
Okay, thanks, Laurie. VK3 SJ. This is VK3 ARY. And a very good morning to everybody on this rather dark, dank sort of a morning. It's not all that bad outside, actually. It's I think it's about 18 degrees. It's quite pleasant. And if we had a millimetre of rain, I'd be surprised. There has been a little bit overnight, but it's such a small amount that everything's dried out. The grass is a bit wet, which is a good thing. But no, we didn't get any rain. And a very good morning to all our listeners out there in Radio Land, and our many listeners on Paul's SDR, running the Homebrew 813 transmitter this morning, about 100 watts out. And everybody is of good report, except you, Peter, and you're down a bit, but you're normally down. Well, I don't have very much to talk about at all this morning, to be honest. I haven't done anything much that's exciting since yesterday. Did go for a walk this morning about 7:45, and that was pretty uneventful. Went down to the shops and did a bit of shopping on the way. And last night I looked at the TV, what was on the TV, and I said, God, what a load of rubbish. So I turned it off and I read a book. What about that, Drew? I actually read a book instead of watching TV. I like watching TV at night. All I wanted is something that's, reasonably entertaining that I can just sit back and watch without having to exert myself at that time of night. Fortunately, I think I'm right in saying that the second test in India between England and India it's either starting tomorrow or Sunday. And because of the time difference, it actually starts out here at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So we can watch it right through till 10:30. So if you've got nothing else to do, you can sit down and watch cricket for hours after hour after hour, which is good. And the other thing is, although I can, if I want to, get hold of all these various organisations like Netflix and Stan, and there's a million other ones now, all showing films. To be honest, looking at most of the films that they've got, which I might have to pay for, I wouldn't watch them, let alone pay for them, to be honest. They don't excite me. There might be a lot more on Netflix that I am aware of, but to be honest, I think having to pay for that sort of stuff's just not on. But that's just me. Some people might like to get the new movies and pay for them, and that's fair enough. Other than that, I really haven't got anything to add. So over to you, Bob. VK3AIC. This is VK3ARY.
No breakers. Good morning all. Thanks, Roy. VK3ARY. This is VK3AIC. What's that doing? Might have to organise the pruning of a bit of a tree. A little bit of detuning on the antenna, but that doesn't matter. Yep, okay. And yes, it's definitely off this year. Decision was made last night that it's a bit hard to control 300 odd people in a little hole like the baseball court or basketball court at Ringwood. So to do it, to make everybody happy, it's pretty much a liability. So she's off for this year, unless we can find something to do later on in the year. What else? No real news from my last scan, and I'm going in for a day or so to have my oxygen needs monitored, so we're going to sort of work out what's going on. That's the story in here. Don't quite know what's going on next week yet. Next week's another story. Goods equals from everybody. And what else? That'll do for this time round, maybe a bit more next time round. Anyhow, over to you, Peter, VK3ZPQ, VK3AIC.
Thanks, Bob. I'm just writing down things that I was going to mention, but they fly in and out of my head as quickly as I think of them. So unless I write them down, I will not know what to talk about. Someone may be able to suggest why or how I can stop the dipole from drooping in the middle where the ladder line attaches. I don't know how to improve it other than tensioning it a bit more. But anyway, it just looks RS, that's all. It seems to work all right, and it goes into a matching swing couple of cruise design. Seems to work quite well on 10 megs and 20 megs until I think of something better to put up there, such as a 20 meg, a 14 metre I should say, 14 megs, not 20 metres, some sort of helically wound Yagi I'm thinking of, just so it's not too enormous. There was one for 40 metres helically wound. It was only 9 foot a side compared to 40 foot a side, and it appeared to work. That was in a few older editions of the ARRL handbook. I was pleased to see a lady passing a few insults at the tennis. She got sick of all this screaming and yelling of the players, so she did a bit of screaming and yelling herself. And the length of time they take between serves gets up my core too. I did play a lot of tennis, as I've mentioned before, and there's absolutely no reason for all that ball bouncing and jigging around and turning on their backsides and wiping their arms and their legs. It's just a load of dribble. You play the game. And she was escorted off. I thought that was quite wrong. I thought she should, speaking for myself, I thought she should berate them. Other amusing thing was that Demetrios, the ex-AFL president for about 22 years, I think, 25 years, Roy will probably correct me, has been decided to formally resign from Crown because of his not knowing anything about the money laundering that was going on between the Chinese and Crown establishment. So a few tall poppies have been popped, as well as Eddie Maguire. Seems to be a popular pastime with the elitist groups. And I heard also this ridiculous thing, both my wife and I thought it was ridiculous, a British hospital has changed, a maternity hospital specialising in birthing, has changed all its formal nomenclature on letterheads and so forth to exclude the term mother. Now, how can you have a homosexual mother, not who wants to be LBGB, whatever they want to call themselves, not called a mother? What is it? It's just something that has a baby? That seems to be what they're on about. And fathers have now been outlawed in their literature, and mothers, well, the next, I suppose, is going to be the baby's a thing rather than a baby. Anyway, comments all round, please. VK3XU, 3ZPQ.
Thank you, Peter. VK3, ZPQ, VK3. X-ray uniform. Good morning, everyone. I looked in the rain gauge, and I think we got 5 mils, but there might have been 1 mil in there already. So we did get a bit of rain. I heard it on the roof. Roy, 1 mil. Your transmitter sounds terrific, Roy. The one you're using, they all sound terrific. Nothing to complain about there. Not that I would. Bob. Well, I mended something of plastic, Bob. One of you blokes, I think it was you, Bob, but you all chimed in together when I asked, what kind of glue can I use to glue something that gets hot? You remember you told me about JB Weld. I've used it for many things. I've used up my first set of tubes. They're tiny little tubes, but they seem to go a long way. And it's grey when you mix it, which is good because it's not as stand out as white or that other erudite colour. And I've mended the plastic collar that goes on this drill I'm restoring. It's a bench drill. Nice little Ryobi bench drill which my friend Charlie Sharp at Park Orchards gave me. He's another good scrounger. He's good at finding stuff. And if it's excess to his requirements, he sometimes passes it on to me. And this sweet little Ryobi, and I'm fixing it up. What I can't figure out, this is driving me crazy. I spent most of yesterday afternoon on it. You may all have come across the kind of chuck that's held into the quill on a Morse taper. Not the big Morse taper, it's a smaller one. There are various Morse tapers, but as far as I can figure out, they're all the same angle, so they all fit within one within another. It's very good engineering. I love it. And there's something about a cone. When you put a cone inside a cone hole, it stays there if it's tensioned up. It doesn't rotate, and it stays true. And the chuck is held on with a small version of that. But the chuck wobbles. And I took the quill out. That's the part that goes up into the pulley at the top. Took all the quill out on the chuck, and mounted it in the lathe, and it's running true. The quill itself is running true right through to the cone at the end, which takes the chuck. And when I plant the chuck on the cone and run it in the lathe up close to the chuck, it runs true too. But when I put it in the quill, in the drill, it's got a bit of a wobble on it. It's not a huge wobble, but it's enough to be unsatisfactory. I think the bearing's okay. There's no wobble in the bearing. I can hear you all thinking, oh, the bearing's crooked. No, the bearing's quite good, and I cannot figure it out. So I'll put it to the Brains Trust. Yes, the tennis. I don't watch the tennis. I kind of envy people like you, Peter, that know all the rules, and you can see the subtleties of it. But all I can see is that two huge Amazon strong women who would be very handy down at the farm, come onto the pitch like rock stars and belt the ball up and down. When they first, when they tee off? When they first serve, they always hit the net, bang! The first one will hit the net, maybe the second one. They'll bounce the ball and jigger it about, and bang, the next one comes down on their opponent like a ton of bricks, and they return it. And then the other person might return it, and then it'll be bock, bock, and then there'll be applause, and there'll be a lot of running about. Boys and girls will run about and pick up balls, and then they repeat the cycle. Repeat. That's all I can see. Yes, I saw a BBC report along those lines, Peter. The LBGTZL MXQ crowd have got far too much influence. I don't think I'm homophobic. If a woman is lesbian or a bloke is homosexual, that's their business. Let them just get on with it. I'm not going to persecute them or ostracise them or refuse their entry into a club or into anything else. I hope I don't treat them differently. In fact, my experience of homosexual men anyway is that they're usually brighter than their fellows. And the same with women. Lesbian women are very practical. The lady that owns the tractor that I've been looking at is one of that crowd, and she's terrific around her property. She does all the fencing and everything. Good luck to her. She drives the tractors and does all the practical stuff. She's got the build for it, but she's got a friend there, and you can see that they're a couple. What's it to do with me? I'm not going crook, but I leave them alone. I don't even mention it. And why do they have to, not this particular person, but as a crowd, as a fraternity, what do they call themselves? Community. As a community, they're on and on about it. And he said that to me, and I object to that. There's another one in a similar report, Peter, on the BBC News. Breastfeed. They're not allowed to use the term breastfeeding or breast milk, for heaven's sake, because it might offend people. Get a handle on it. I've had my gripe this morning. My next over will have no gripes in it. Thanks for doing it this morning, Laurie. Over to you, Kevin. VK3CKL, VK3 X-ray uniform.
Good, thanks, Drew. VK3XU, VK3CKL. Good morning to all. I should have left a bit of a break there, which I didn't, to see if there was anyone else around. But anyway, someone else would have heard if anyone checked it. I'm trying to get my screen here organised too, and not having much success. Don't know why. Doesn't matter. I'm pretty sure I'm on the air. Have a look around at the amplifier. Yeah, appears to say that I'm putting a signal out. Anyway, thanks for looking after the session, Laurie. Good morning to all taking part and the listeners we have. Not sure if I put in a call sign, VK3XU, VK3CKL. Missed a little bit on Bob's over, so try and pick up what I may have missed later. Rain here, very little, bit of a sprinkle about the time I was going to bed last night, I think, which was about 8:30 or 9 o'clock, something like that. It's a bit of a sprinkle outside, but I don't think it amounted to much, and whether we've had any more since then, I'm not sure. Let's see, Roy, the cricket, haven't kept too much a view of it, just the reports on the news. Okay, and all your comments. Tennis, don't take a lot of interest in tennis, except Ash Barty. I'd like to see how she's going. And Davis Cup tennis I take a bit of interest in, but otherwise not too much interest. And TV last night, there was nothing at all. I looked around for something to watch. There were a few things that I'd previously recorded, and I watched a bit of those for a while, but that was about the extent of it. Not sure Jim Gordon, I'm not sure. So one reason I want to bring up the screen here is see if Jim Gordon is, I don't know what I've done here, I've lost my screen, doesn't matter, I want to worry about Jim Gordon. If you're listening, I may get to the meeting tomorrow, but at this stage I'm not sure. Starts at about, I think we're normal, or admitted about 2 p.m, I think, is the situation. Getting sick of scam phone calls. They seem to have multiplied many times, and there's one I'm getting at the moment which keeps telling me there's going to be a certain amount deducted from my bank account, and each time they give me the message that it goes up by about $1,000, so I just, as soon as I hear it, I just hang up. And I think the phone's rung, my mobile phone has rung about 3 or 4 times this morning already, and the scam call is nothing I want to know about it. I wonder how the smart meters are too, because I thought that they would have been constantly updating the information they get and send on, and but I like to check up a couple of times a day, mainly on my production rather than my usage. And I click on in the morning about 9 o'clock and update the screen, and then try and check in a few hours later, or perhaps even 4 or 5 hours later, and they tell me it's already up to date, but it can't be up to date, so I don't know whether they have certain times of day they update automatically, or whether someone actually has to push a button somewhere to provide the information. Let's see what else. The antenna conference there, Peter, all okay. I've got a couple of questions for you too, Steve. I believe your antenna is a flat top. I think it's flat top rather than inverted V. I think it's 160 metres half wave, and fed with open wire line. I wonder if you twist the open wire line or just let it run down the 2 wires parallel, and whether it has a centre support, or as per Peter's comments about stopping the droop. Anyway, I'm sort of considering what I'm doing here. I haven't managed to get out to the workshop yet and measure up the piece of ladder line I've got through, but noted your offer of a couple of days ago, and I'll measure what I have here and see whether I have sufficient or need any more. Anyway, not much more from here, so over to you, Steve, VK3HK, VK3CKL.
Okay, this is VK3HK. No, I'm not using that system any longer, Kevin. I ditched that years ago now. Years ago. What I have is a Marconi T, so it's just a flat top with a single wire coming down from the centre and into the antenna matching unit at the base. And that's what Laurie's using as far as I know, and that's what Marty uses. I'm not too sure how many others are on the net are using that, but that's the system here. Okay, and yes, Peter, I've heard about these absolute idiots in the UK. Must be a right load of people on that board, I'd say. Yeah, they'd be very happy with the sort of people we have over the northern side of Melbourne, over around Coburg and so on, Northcote and whatnot. They'll tear away greens and LGBT, XYZs and goodness only knows what, bloody ratbags, a lot of them. All right, well, apart from that, I don't think I have very much else to... Oh, wait on. I was sitting here earlier on. I'm regenerating another computer, and I hear beep, 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 a tiny little Italian sort of beep, 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 Italian car beep, beep, beep. And I stick my head out the window, and here is an Australia Post, an actual Australia Post courier with all his gear on his motorbike, and I went outside. What? And there is a registered letter. I haven't seen a registered letter for a long time. Great big red capitals on the front. Urgent safety recall. Fiat Chrysler automobiles. And I thought, okay, this must be interesting. So I opened it up, and they've apparently become very anxious, and they've sent me this urgent safety recall notice to tell me that I should be taking my vehicle in to have what I had done last Monday completed. So, dearie me. Yeah. Evidently, if I think this is the case, if there's a product recall for safety reasons, the companies who manufactured the vehicle are responsible for having the recalls done, and if they don't have it done, if they don't have the recalls seen to, and someone's injured or killed or some such, they're liable. So they try desperately to get all these recalls done over and over and over. Try. So there we are. I'm looking at all the birds out the front. It was mayhem here this morning, around about 10:30, maybe a little bit earlier. All the butcher birds are out there calling, and magpies squawking, and noisy miners cheep, cheep, cheep. They're all going off. Come and give us something to eat, Bushy. Oh dear. And there are two families of magpies. There are the pair which have been here for about 4 or 5 years, and reckon that our backyard is their realm. And there's another gang, a gang of 6 we call them, who come in around the front yard. And where I've been feeding them recently is right on the boundary of the two. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, these magpies, they're sticklers for boundaries. And the noise and the aerial antics which go on here are something else. Now, Kevin, getting back to your antenna queries, if you can ask me the questions, or Laurie, just ask, generally ask. I'm sure Drew will know the answers too. So whatever it is, fire away. Just because we're not currently, or I'm not currently using one, doesn't mean to say we can't help you with something. Okay, I think I was the last one, so who was it? Laurie. Back to you, Laurie. This is VK3HK.
Thanks, Stephen. VK3HK, VK3SJ. All good there. I'm receiving your signal fairly well direct too this morning, Kevin, so obviously a bit of water on the ground does seem to help. But everybody is of good copy at this location this morning. Drew, now in terms of adhesives, it might be worthwhile you writing this one down. There's a company called Test Equipment, or TEQ, and their web address is testequip.com.au, so it's an Australian company, but they specialise in, amongst other things, scientific instruments, hardness testers, but very high temperature adhesives. Some of the adhesives that are available is a thing called ResiBond, which I have actually used myself, and it is rated at 1150 degrees centigrade. They also make a product called Thermes, which is good for aluminium, ceramic and things like that. It's rated at 1650 degrees centigrade. And they also have a Duralco epoxy, which is rated at 660 degrees centigrade. So if you're looking for high temperature adhesives, Test Equipment's the company, and I think they're located in Melbourne too, going by this going by their website. Yes, they are a Melbourne-based company, and MeasureTech Australia is the trading name of the company. So, and they specialise in these high-temperature adhesives. So, if you need something like that, 8787, looks like it's somewhere around Bayswater area that they're in. Doesn't actually give their address on the web. But anyway, something to think of if you need anything that gets hot and needs an adhesive. Yes, well, this LBGT, hairy armpit, God knows what else, and don't know what I am tomorrow lot are a very small percent of the population, and it's often said that the squeaky hinge gets the oil. But what they're doing is counterproductive, because all they're doing is getting the majority of people's backs up. And, you know, as far as I'm concerned, they're freaks to me. If they want to do their own thing, fine. They want to shove it down my throat, I'll give back as good as I get, and I don't care who I offend, so as most of you would know. So if I get a hard time from them, I just tell them to step on the railway track and get run over by a train and do the world a favour. And that's just the way I view it. I'm not going to be told by anybody what to think. They don't tell me what to think. They don't tell me how to react. They don't tell me what to do. So, and that's just the way it is. I've just got no... Look, I've worked with people that are homosexual, and in actual fact, Drew, you are partially right. There are a few nuff-nuffs amongst them. But if you go have a look through history and look at all the your Michelangelos and your Botticellis and people involved heavily in the arts, and you're seeing it today as well, that a lot of these really, really top talented people are actually gay. And you know, I mean, even in modern times, you've got Elton John and people like that. But and I've got no problem with that. I've got no problem with people being what they want to be. But if they want to change everything in the world to suit them, I do have a problem with that. And if they want a reaction from me about it, they'll get one. Just the same as this dickhead Premier has now got an unelected Member of Parliament in charge of degenerating all government documentation and so forth, to get rid of he and she. So they want us to all be cousin-its, I suppose. But I'm not going to change. No law is going to make me change. In fact, no law ever prevented a crime. We all know that murder is a crime, punishable by imprisonment, but we still have a couple of murders every week. So no law ever stopped a crime. Anyway, with that, let's go around again. Now, VK3ARY to take it, VK3SJ.
Weak carrier here, but no modulation.
Is Roy on air?
There's a weak carrier on the frequency, but no modulation, no Laurie.
Roy must have had a problem.
I'm here.
Well, I'll put it over to you.
Sorry, Lloyd, I didn't hear you. I must have been thinking about something else. I'm here. Okay, VK3SJ. This is VK3ARY, and thanks for doing it this morning, Laurie. Sorry about not picking it up. I must have been dreaming or something. I don't have anything much more to comment on, except to say the old fellow at the end of the list, I see your favourite company made headlines in the Fin Review this morning, Stephen. AMP fights on all fronts. So that's something to keep you happy. So there you go. Anyway, I haven't got anything more to say, so have a good day, everybody, and a good weekend. And if none of you got anything to do, you could all come out and cut my grass for me if you like, because it's getting away. Over to you, Bob. VK3AIC. This is VK3ARY. Cheers, everyone.
Yeah, okay, Roy. VK3ARY. This is VK3AIC. All comments duly noted all round. Stephen, you have to ring me. I'm sick and tired of trying to ring you. Your phone rings but nobody answers. Leave messages. You've got to ring me, mate. So at your earliest convenience or whatever. Or from your earliest... No. I don't think you got a phone in there. Peter, okay. Drew the drill. That's interesting. It wobbles. Definitely sounds like a bearing problem, although it almost sounds like something's not sitting properly. That's for sure. Unless there's a bit of wear in the bearings. I don't know. Sounds funny. Usually if it's not sitting properly. Sometimes there's a thread holding those chucks on, not necessarily a taper. And that can be bent a little bit. But it runs alright when you put it in the lathe and assemble it up and run it. Dunno. Weird one, mate, that's for sure. It's a good selection of high temperature adhesives and stuff. Laurie, very interesting. Peter, your antenna. I take it that's your delta loop you're working on there. No, that's for 40 metres, isn't it? Dunno. Right. Got nothing else to add. No intelligence to add to the conversation, so I better quit while I'm behind. Over to you, Peter. VK3ZPG, VK3AIC.
Roger, Bob. All very clear signals this morning. The oscilloscope's doing what it should be doing. Yeah, we've got a farrier that comes up here who's batting to the other side, and I often think it's such a waste of a good body. She's got a lovely set of everythings and legs and so forth, and if I was single I thought I'd really enjoy a round or two between those legs, but it just seems a waste to me. The other thing is there's a letter to the editor. Dan, can you help me out with this mask issue? Have you ever been to 90 Mile Beach at Sea Spray in Gippsland? Apart from the odd dead crab, washed up seaweed and a few seagulls, the chances of meeting hordes of humans walking along the beach spewing out coronavirus are nil. Maybe it's the salt air and the ever-present winds that protect us. Perhaps your health department would detail how many people have contracted the virus on any beach anywhere in Victoria, or for that matter Australia. It would provide for interesting reading. I thought that was a good little letter from a chap in Warragul. Other than that, pretty well talked out, because I really talked myself stupid last night. Wife said, well, we're just about to send out a search party for you, because it was 11:15, and I was a bit worried because you went out in your underpants because it was too hot and you were still out there. I don't know who she thought I was hobnobbing with, but it was only talking on the radio. Cheers for now, Vic, and have a good weekend, everyone. VK3XU to take it, VK3ZPQ.
Thank you, Peter. VK3ZPQ, VK3 X-ray uniform. Interesting this morning. It always is. Thank you, Laurie, for that tip on the glues. Yes, I'm very disappointed with the glues that you may buy off the shelf. Bunnings, for instance, have a whole display, mostly Sally's, but all the others. There are various araldites and things for sticking this, that and the other thing. And I have spent a long time standing there reading the labels on all these things, and they've got all sorts of let-out clauses and caveats, won't stick this, won't stick that, and I'm thinking, well, what do I really want to stick with this? I've got onto a fairly good one, which you get it from Bunnings. It's not araldite. 5-minute araldite is not worth 2 bob. It's 5 minute refers to the amount of time that it lasts when you put two things together. It's not the curing time, it's the bloomin' lasting time. And the full strength araldite's pretty good, but you've got to wait so long. If you've got an urgent repair or you want a pronto repair, you've got to wait 24 hours at least. And then it never really cures really hard for a few days. You've got to wait for maybe 6 months. There's a blob here on my vise. Look at this one. It's as hard as a rock. Some araldite that I mixed up. Good stuff, but I'm not going to wait a year for that to be achieved. Anyway, thanks, Laurie. I know there are adhesives out there. When I was in the labs, I could just go around to the chem department. We had a whole chemistry department full of blokes that knew all about chemistry. Eccentric crowd, but very interesting. Sometimes we'd have a bit of electronics that was potted in epoxy. I think I've told this story. We'd take it round there and they would get all the epoxy off. How did you do it? We're not telling you that. Now, Laurie, you had a bit of a go that time. I'm going to stick my neck up and out and say, these people are like you. The people that you're complaining about are just like you. They want everything their way. You want everything your way. You listen to yourself. Listen to yourself. You're very intolerant of other people. Other people are different from you, Laurie, and they're not as bright as you. Most people aren't as bright as you. But you can't have everything your own way. But they want everything their own way. They've got to realise that. Perhaps you've got to realise that too. There you are, I've said it. A helically wound beam, Peter, stay away from them there if you can. You've got room to put up the most magnificent beam over there. Here goes Biggles. See a few tiger moths getting around these days. They come out of the little airfield over there at Coldstream, and they wander around a very small area. I think they've got to stay in that area. Is that right, Laurie? They're just they're doing joy flights or training flight, perhaps training flights. Little tiger moth growls over one part of Wonga Park, the other end of Wonga Park, where we can see that airstrip, but they stick pretty close to home. They don't wander far from there. Now I've lost my thread. Never mind. Oh, the helical beam. They're sharpish tuned. If you've ever got a helical going for mobile, you put the turns on and you obey all the instructions. And I have spent hours tuning those things, and you take a few turns. Oh, I've taken too many turns off, and mucking around. They're so sharp. If you made a beam like that, can you imagine how sharp it would be? Because they're working against each other. With a helical on a car, you've got the whole body of the car as a ground plane, but with a helical antenna working against a helical antenna, you've got a sharpish tuned thing, and it's not going to have enough bandwidth. If you can put up a full-size beam antenna, you'll be laughing. That's my suggestion on that one. Look, I think that's enough from me. I've got Laurie offside now, so I'll have to weather that. Enjoy the weekend, fellows. I have no films to suggest except to you, Steve, and those that may be interested. Dubjacks has come back for the 32nd time. Remember, he started out as Dubjacks, and then it became Dubjacks 1, 2. He's up to 32. He's been shut down. He has responded to somebody out there who criticised him. Dubjacks is still there, but it's way down in the bottom left-hand corner, and it's hardly visible, but it would still annoy you. Notwithstanding the quality and the rareness of the film, that Dubjacks would put you right off, wouldn't it, Stu? But what he's been doing lately is, apart from dodging the YouTube police, he's been taking us for little walks around his neighbourhood, which is Primrose Hill and Hampstead in London. And he has treated us to these really sweet little homemade travelogues, if you like, where he just wanders around with the camera around Primrose Hill and that area, which is very nice, very, very nice. I don't think I've ever been there, not even by bus, so might pay it a visit if we ever get there again. That's another story. Thanks for the session this morning. Thanks for doing it, Laurie. Cheerio, fellows. Enjoy your weekend. Over to you, Kevin. And I'm on the twin wire flat top, Kevin, so you might be getting a better signal on this one. We'll do the test again. That's the 2-wire flat top. That's the inverted L out in the paddock. That's back to the 2-wire flat top. VK3 CKL, VK3 X-ray uniform.
Yeah, the usual about 2 dB difference, Drew, when you switch from one to the other. If the 2-wire flat top is the better by a couple of dBs. I can't hear any difference in the audibility of the signal, but I could see the reading on the meter go up when you or down when you switch, depending which way you're going. Anyway, VK3XU, VK3CKL, thanks for the info on the antenna, Steve. I know you've mentioned the Marconi T recently, but I thought that was the description of the antenna with the feed line tied together at the bottom, but not so. That's okay. The main question I've got is it advantageous for amateur use to twist the feed line or not twist the feed line? In the TV days, we always twisted the feed line because it 300 ohm line because it reduced wind loading and also was supposed to cut out or cancel out any interference that was picked up in the feed line. So that's the only question I've got really. I'm planning to put up an antenna inverted V of 80 metres or 3.5 metres if you like, halfway, and fed with the ladder line. I've got to investigate and see what ladder line I've got, whether I've got sufficient here or need support, so we'll work that out in time. Anyway, thanks for the session, Laurie. Thanks for looking after it. Cheers all round. Enjoy the rest of the day. Cheers to all listeners. I had one other thing I was going to mention. Paul's SCR, the neighbours not got their air conditioner running this morning because quite a clean sort of signal on the SCR this morning. VK3 SJ, VK3 CK up.
What about me?
Oh, sorry, VK3HK, VK3CL.
You're forgiven. It's not as though I haven't done it myself. No advantage. I've tried running it straight, and I've tried running it twisted. Compared things with Paul. No difference. Didn't make any difference as far as noise pickup was concerned either. So just go ahead and run it straight down. You're going to be wrapped, Laurie. Apparently 3AW are making all sorts of noises about how there's likely to be a 5-day lockdown, and so on and so on and so forth. Well, as far as I'm concerned, they can go and get stuffed. I'm not locking down any damn thing. I'm just going to carry on as per normal. So there you are, and I think you'll probably be pretty much of the same point of view, Laurie. Okie dokie. All right, well, that's it for today. Yeah, I'll see you all around. VK3, who is it? VK3. Oh, I've just noticed that I'm illuminating a little LED in a power supply which I have turned off. So there are obviously some currents floating around here. Okay. My power's down too. I'll do an Eric and I'll turn it all up and get it going fabulously just in time to turn everything off. So there you go. Back to you, Laurie. This is VK3HK.
Thanks, Stephen. VK3HK, VK3SJ. A couple of points I'd like to make. No, Drew, you haven't got me offside, but I'll just address that in a sec. First of all, the reason for the twists in TV antennas, Kevin, from what I understand, was the fact that the 300 ohm ribbon would be running parallel to the steel support mast that the antenna was on. And the purpose of which is so that the steel mast didn't become a reflector or director of an RF signal into the feed line, and that was my understanding why the twists were actually put into place. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that was the reason for it. Drew, the essential difference now, while I take your point that I have my views, and I take your point that they have their views, the difference between me and them is that I don't go down the street graffitiing things, their views all over everything in sight. I don't go blocking traffic. I don't go blocking the steps of Parliament. I don't go calling people racist or sexist or anything without provocation. They all do, and that's what gets up the majority, and they've got no respect for the way that I've been brought up or my values. No respect at all. So why the hell should I respect them when that happens? I think if you think back, if you think the world is a happier place with all this lot doing what they're doing, well, I feel sad for you, because when I grew up, we never had any of this, and the place was much happier then than what it is now. Everybody seems to want to have some sort of an excuse to run down somebody else, and that's the way I see things at the moment. But that is the big difference between them and myself, is I don't go out and force my views on anybody else. I'll just have my views if I get asked, and that's what they are. But I'm not out there graffitiing or blocking streets or attacking anyone or calling people sexist, racist like they do, and that is the main difference. Anyway, we'll wind it up for the day, and it's been a good session this morning, and of course I'll look forward to catching up with everybody again on Monday, all being well. So this is VK3SJ now formally closing the net and leaving the frequency free for those who wish to use it. Steve, don't go anywhere. I've got a message for you shortly.
Drew, I've got a message for you too about epoxies. Are you still there?
Yes, Peter, we have to be quick because Steve and Laurie want to talk too, I think.
Yeah, it's methylene chloride will dissociate or smash up hardened epoxy. That's what we used to use at HP, and it's lethal. It's lethal crap, and you probably can't get it without a license or something, but that does break it up. And thanks for the beam information about peaking. I hadn't thought contemplated that. So I'll dwell on it and see what else I can fit up there. Thanks very much. Go ahead, Laurie.
Good day, Peter. Cheerio, fellows.
One final point, Drew, about epoxies and glues and so forth, is that anything sold in Bunnings or a retail store can't contain any sort of carcinogenic, where professional adhesives often do. And I think that's why there's a big difference between what they call retail adhesives and professional industry adhesives.
Yeah, you're good at that, Laurie. I think you might have put your finger right on it. Bunnings don't want to sell anything where somebody might harm themselves.
Well, this is the thing, because they become liable and the companies themselves become liable. Now, you would remember, you've been in the labs, you would remember carbon tetrachloride.
I used it when I was a trainee. We actually routinely used it for cleaning banks and wipers. How about that?
Well, you know its history, you know how nasty that stuff is.
Well, if I die from some nasty disease, that may well be what did it, because trainees were expected to do all the bank and wiper cleaning, and we all, in my year, did plenty of it.
Well, methylene chloride's more lethal than carbon tech, so yeah, it's pretty nasty stuff.
No, I was just giving that as an example because there are other chemicals. I remember when asbestos was the wonder substance, and look what history has proven that to be like. And in fact, even until recently, I was still using brake shoes on cars and trains and a few other things. But certainly that would probably be the reason, Drew. I'd be almost guaranteed that'll be the reason why retail adhesives are nowhere near as good as their industrial counterpart.
Yes. In the 50s and 60s, when my brother, who was very interested in chemistry, he used to be able to get most of what he required down at the local chemist shop, even the ingredients to make gunpowder. How about that?
Well, you'd remember Selby's and what was it, Townsend and Mercer? I think they were in Blackburn somewhere. You could wander in there, buy ammonium nitrate, potassium nitrate. As a schoolboy, I did this because Townsend and Mercer was just down the road. But these days, you can't even go and buy nitric acid anywhere unless you've got a licence to have it and store it, and etc., etc.
Quite so. I've got to go.
Chlorate was much better for an oxidising agent, much more violent.
Okay, now Steve, on a more important topic, I've downloaded some of these high-resolution outer limits, and they are very, very crisp, very, very pristine. And but of course the problem's the file size. So what would you like me to do?
Yeah, I thought we talked about this. And I still haven't got around to doing this experiment, which is suggested. Look, just hold on to it. Just hold on to things for the time being until I work out what the hell I'm going to do. But I think probably I might be, or if you've got a spare hard drive up there, just stick them on the hard drive, and I'll get the hard drive back to you, or give you an exchange or something, whatever you like. So the hard drive, I think, will be the way to go, and I can pick it up from you.
Okay, well, there's another thing that I can suggest, and that is to re-encode the file size to under 5 gigabyte. The loss would be pretty well nothing, because you're only turning a 5.5 gigabyte file down to a 3.99 gigabyte file, and probably you wouldn't pick the difference. So what I'll do is I'll re-encode one of them to that and just do an A and B comparison, because certainly if I could get the file size down to 4 gigabyte, it solves the problem.
Okay, well, yeah, I'd be happy for you to do that. No idea how you do that, but you obviously know how to do it, so full speed ahead.
Yeah, all you're doing is just basically decreasing the sample sizes slightly, because at the moment it's, I think they're recorded at something like about 12,000 kilobits a second. It's Blu-ray quality, essentially, Steve. These are Blu-ray files, that's why they're so big.
Okay, well, I don't need Blu-ray. I can't stand Blu-ray, and why would I need Blu-ray on a monochrome thing anyway?
Oh, look, you know, I've got to say, Steve, that the picture quality is absolutely superb. It's far better than the DVD equivalent. However, if you hadn't seen one side by side, you probably wouldn't know. With these high definition things, they've just got a certain crispness to them that DVD hasn't got, and you look at them and they do look impressive.
I agree. There is one website which I looked at recently, and they had an example of one of the high definition ones, and I thought, blimey, this is absolutely fabulous. It was exactly as you described it. If you're listening, Bobby, I'll give you a ring about 1 o'clock, give you a chance to have some lunch. Back to you, Laurie.
Yeah, okay then, Steve. So I don't know if you got much rain overnight, but we got a little bit here. But yeah, I've got encoding to just change the bit rate slightly, which creates a smaller file size. But when you consider that they must have used, they wouldn't have used videotape to do those shows, that's for sure, not in that era. But they would have certainly, they must have used even better than 35mm film. Well, at least would have been at least 35mm film that the originals were made on. And but as I said, you can definitely pick the difference between the DVD and the DVD and the Blu-ray quality copy.
Yeah, I know, having seen both of them. Yes. Oh well. Just keep an eye on it. You know, when you're doing the transfer or the changeo, hey presto thingy bob. Keep an eye on it. Keep your eye on the what do they call it? The scale. Don't let it get any further than halfway up. All right.
Oh, I'll definitely make sure it doesn't get any further than halfway up the scale, but in actual fact, in the high-definition copies, it's actually easier to pick out how poor the props were.
Oh, look, the last several times, I usually don't get to watch all of the creation of Unusual Matter, but I pay particular attention to the opening shots, where they're running around with their long arm gloves on and twisting wheels and opening autoclave things and oh dear. And the thing that gets me is the siren, you know, all this sort of business. God, these blokes come running in with a trolley. Oh, what have you got there? Oh, we don't know. But it's halfway up the scale.
Yes, I love that bit, and they said, oh, it's putting out some field, or we better call Dr. Marshall. Oh, the intercom doesn't work. Ah, this thing must be putting out some horrible radiation that's disrupting electronics, so what do? Pick up the phone and talk to him.
If all else fails. Oh, dear. Yes, and then they cut away to Dr. Marshall, and there's some other bloke, I don't know who he is, but he's evidently Dr. Marshall's boss. And Dr. Marshall saying, I don't mind telling you that I'm a bit concerned about the radiation. How about the blokes who their faces are turning into electricity?
Yeah, well, I think they had a definite problem, and I think it would take a lot to get over that particular affliction. But the thing that, it was actually the other way around. Dr. Marshall was supposed to be the boss, and the other bloke was the offsider. He was the one that ended up with the 6 foot thick lead shield on top of him. Remember when the lightning face pushed it over on top of him, and so what do? 3 of them get in there and pick up the lead shield to get him out. I thought that was pretty... I thought they could have done a little bit better on the continuity on that, because a 6-foot thick lead shield, I think, would weigh a little bit more than 3 people could lift.
Yeah, I reckon. Yes. But they were good. Yes, I must have another look at it. I'll go at it during lunch. I'll take my sandwich out there and have a look at it and find out who this other bloke is. He's a real wimp, this other bloke. You know, I don't mind telling you. Anyway, he goes into his office, and there were 1 or 2 women, I can't remember now. And they all end up in his office, and he's sitting there, and he's a babbling idiot. He doesn't know what to do, and he's so concerned that he's turning to jelly, you know. Absolutely incredible, Laurie.
Oh, when he breaks down in tears, I don't want to die, and one of the women there said, "You're afraid, aren't you? You're afraid of this." They said, "This could be the end of the world, and I don't want to die."
Oh boy, I can hardly wait to get out there. I'm trying to register this damned XP which I've got here, but I've discovered that my keyboard's not working, so got a little bit of work to do. This cloud seems to be lifting now, and the temperature's going up. Let me have a look and see what it is at the moment. At least it feels like it is anyway. Have to take my jumper off in a minute.
It's global, Steve.
Yep, it's definitely going up. It's 19 degrees here now. It was so damn cold this morning. I put my shorts on because it was still warm inside. I put my shorts on. I'd heard that it was going to be 25 today, so I thought, oh, okay, T-shirt. I walked outside to find out how much rain we'd received overnight, and I thought, it's definitely time to put my jumper on. It must have been good up at Death Valley.
Well, it got very cold overnight. Well, after the rain started, it got fairly cold here, but we've had a couple of 4-degree mornings here, and that just never happens in the middle of summer, and we are really the hottest. This is supposed to be the hottest month of summer, and to wake up a few mornings at 4 degrees and less, that was a bit of a shock.
Very definitely so, yes. And who was it? Roy was making comment, I'm not sure if it was this morning or yesterday, making comment on the fact that it's seeming a lot like autumn, very autumnal, and I agree with him. We haven't really had a summer this year, which doesn't particularly worry me. One thing I have noticed is that tomatoes have been a long time coming on, although all our tomatoes are ripening up right now. We've got a huge deluge of tomatoes coming in, but the grapes have been absolutely shocking. My white grapes, they just basically rotted on the vine. They didn't mature properly, and just turned into great bunches of nothingness. I let the birds eat them, and the red grapes, they're still green. So, oh dear, it's definitely going to be a late harvest this year, Laurie.
I don't know if you've noticed or not, even my lawns are growing very, very quickly. Despite the amount of rain and that we've had, even the lawns aren't growing quickly at the moment.
Well, it certainly is down here. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. I mowed my lawn earlier this week, but it's not going to be long before I have to mow it again. No worries down here as far as the lawn is concerned. You ask Roy about his lawn. All right, I better get going. Go and get myself a caraway seed and a glass of water, and I will be content.
Well, you know, with Roy, he's very particular about his lawn. He gets down to his hands and knees with a pair of scissors and a magnifying glass to make sure all the blades are exactly the right length and everything. You know what Roy's like.
Oh, bowling green. He let the cat out of the bag the other day. We were talking about mowers and so on and so forth. And it turns out he has a ride-on mower, fair dinkum. You know, he has about as much lawn as you have in your front yard, which isn't very much.
Yes, I'm aware of the size of Roy's lawn. Diane walked in just as you said that, and she's just picking herself up off the floor now.
Because I know the horrid truth about your front lawn.
No, because as soon as you said that Roy had a ride-on mower to do his lawns, she was absolutely in shock.
Well, I must admit that it surprised me too, you know, fair dinkum. Ride-on mower for that. Pocket handkerchief.
Well, I mean, his lawn's about the size of our nature strip, I think, and but our nature strip's hard to grok next door. All his visitors park on our nature strip. They don't park on his, they park on ours.
Yeah, well, you know, if you consider what's there, the majority of it is his nature strip. It's just that it extends slightly back towards his front door.
Well, all the houses around there are like that. They're all these great big mansions on little blocks with very little garden and very little lawn. Although I think there are advantages to that, to be quite honest. But and I think the Italians have got the right idea. You've been on an Italian lawn, haven't you?
Oh yeah, I know about them. Italian/Greek/Maltese. That's all a uniform grey colour.
Yep, that's the one, and it doesn't require mowing at all.
None whatsoever. One application and you're done. All right, you're done too. It's 8 minutes past midday. Catch you later. I've got some serious viewing to do.
Okay, well, I'll re-encode one of these episodes below the 4 gigabyte mark, and I'll give you a report to let you know how it goes, but I'm expecting it'll probably be okay.
Okie dokie, sounds good. Catch you later next week sometime. This is VK3HK.
Cheers, Steve.
See you at 1 o'clock, Steve.
Roger that.
Bob, if you're still there, I think it's there's a pub night not next week but the week after.
Sounds okay, Laurie. We'll catch you then.
I'll give you a call, Bob, and let you know. I'll just confirm the date.